Hello everyone, welcome once again to economic class. This is a learning session. I hope you have your pen and your notebook ready to learn. We will proceed from where we stopped. We have been marching on, no turning back. We are studying supply. In our previous lessons, we discussed the determinants of supply, factors that determine what quantity of goods or commodities will be supplied in the market. What are these factors? And one of the factors we mentioned was price. In fact, the first one was the price of the product. And we say that if the price of a product increases, then suppliers or sellers are most likely to increase the supply of that product. But if the price of a product reduces, then we know how suppliers will behave. They will supply less of that product. And that marks the backbone. It is on that basis that we have the law of supply. This is our second law, the law of supply. This is an economic law. We have said that the tendency of supply to increase with the increase in price and the tendency of supply to reduce with the reduction in price is what we are referring to as the law of supply. So that the higher the price of a commodity, the higher the level of supply of that commodity in the market, and the lower the price of that commodity in the market, the lower the level of supply of the same commodity in the market. So that is a law. It is an economic law. It is an economic law. And remember what we mentioned in our very first lesson. We say that an economic law is, we defined an economic law as an hypothesis supported by many facts, an hypothesis supported by many facts over a long period of time. Over a long period of time. We defined an economic law as a conditioned statement about human economic behavior. All right? We say that an economic law is actually an economic theory sufficiently proved over a long period of time. We defined an economic law as a statement that shows certain course of action expected under certain conditions from members of a certain group. It is a statement that shows certain course of action expected under certain conditions. Okay? It is certain that if you increase the price, of a commodity, then the persons dealing in that commodity will increase the supply of that commodity. And if you reduce the price of a commodity, then the dealers, the people who are selling the commodity, are likely to supply less of that commodity. That is the law of supply. It states that the higher the price, the lower the quantity, the higher the price, the higher the quantity supplied, and the lower the price, the lower the quantity supplied. Okay? The higher the price, the higher the price, the higher the quantity. The lower the price, the lower the quantity of the commodity that will be supplied in the market. And we gave reasons why that can happen. So that law, that is the second law we are studying, the law of supply. Remember the reasons why we are studying this subject, so that you can understand economic principles. Remember we mentioned that, so that these principles you will be able to apply, okay, in making decisions. So if you are studying to be an accountant, you are not only learning double entry, credit debit. You are also learning laws that govern the economic environment within which your organization is operating. You also need to learn the behavior of the different stakeholders of the company, one of whom is suppliers. You need to understand the behavior of suppliers. How will suppliers behave under certain conditions? So this is a law, second law that we are learning, and this law you can apply it, right, in making decisions, whether it is at a company level or even within the government and so on. So this is a law. Then we can now look at supply schedule. Our second subtopic is a supply schedule. Supply schedule. All right? Supply schedule. A supply schedule is simply a table. It is simply a table that shows the quantities of products that are supplied in the market at a given period of time. A supply schedule, I repeat, is simply a table or a table that shows the quantity of a commodity that the producers are willing and able to bring to the market at different prices over a given period of time. A supply schedule shows in tabular form the quantity of a commodity that the producers are willing and able to offer to the market at a particular price at a given period of time. Willing and able. So a supply schedule is simply a table showing the prices and quantities that producers or suppliers are willing and able to bring to the market at a given price over a given period of time. So we will be looking at an illustration of a supply schedule. So below is a supply schedule for bread in Shimalabandu over 1 week. So below is a supply schedule which shows the supply of bread over 1 week. Over 1 week. Okay. This is an example of a supply schedule. Supply schedule is a supply schedule for bread. Demand supply schedule for bread in Shimalavandu over 1 week. So we have a column here that for price per loaf, then quantity, number of loaves supplied, then you have the number of loaves supplied, the number of loaves supplied in a week, the number of loaves supplied in a week. So we have 30, 20, 15, 30, 20, 15, 12, 10, 5, 12, 10, 5, and 1 shilling. Then the number of loaves, 1,700, 1,700, 500, 300, 500, 300, 200, 200, then 150, 150. So these are the number of loaves supplied for Shimalavandu over 1 week. Over 1 week. So this is a demand schedule. 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 You can see here when the price is 30 shillings, that is the highest. When the price is 30 shillings, the number of loaves supplied in a week is at 1,000. 1,000 loaves will be supplied in Shimalavandu. When the price reduces to 20, you can see here the number of loaves have also reduced to 700. When it is reduced to 15, it has also gone down to 500. When the price reduces to 12, 300 loaves will be supplied. At 10 shillings, 200 loaves are supplied. At 5 shillings, 100 loaves are supplied. And when it's 1 shilling, then the suppliers will supply 50 loaves. So the higher the price, the higher the quantity is supplied. And the lower the price, see the price is lowest here at 1 bob. When the price is 1 shilling, you see only 50 loaves. The suppliers will be willing and able to supply only 50 loaves. So this is a supply schedule. It is a table that shows the quantity that suppliers are willing and able to offer for sale in the market at a given price over a particular period of time. So that is a demand, the supply schedule. So we can now present this schedule in a graph what we call supply curve. When we present this in a graph, then we come up with a supply curve. And the supply curve is simply a graph showing the relationship between the price of a commodity and the quantity of the commodity supplied. Supply curve is a graph showing the relationship between the price of a commodity and the quantity of the quantity of the product supplied. So simply coming up with a graph based on the supply schedule. So we are going to draw here a supply curve. Supply curve. And we've said a supply curve is a graph. So we'll have a graph here on the y-axis. Going to have the price on the y-axis, and on the x-axis we have the quantity of bread supplied. So we have 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. This is the price. Then on the x-axis, you can talk of 100, 200, okay, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, 1000. So when the price is at 30, when the price is at 30 shillings, and the price is at 30 shillings, this is 30 shillings, the quantity supplied here is 1,000 loaves. So this is our first point. Then when the price is 20 shillings, the quantity supplied, the price is at 20 shillings, the quantity supplied 700. When the price is 15 shillings, the number of loaves supplied will be equal to 500 at 15. Then at 12 shillings, 300 loaves are supplied. 300 loaves supplied. When the price reduces to 10 shillings, 200 loaves are supplied. 10 shillings, 200 loaves are supplied. At 5 shillings, 100 loaves are supplied. 5 shillings, 100 loaves are supplied. And at 1 shilling here, 50 loaves are supplied. So these are the points. So we have the points. The first point, coordinate, is at that point. Then you have another one there, another point here, the point there, the point, the point. So with this point, we can draw our supply curve, which is a supply curve. So that is how to come up with a supply curve. Okay, we've said it's a graph showing the price. This is the price, and on the x-axis you have the quantity supplied, the quantity of bread supplied, and here we have the price per loaf, price per loaf of bread. Okay, that is how to draw a supply curve. Supply curve, we have said, is a graph showing the relationship between the price of a commodity and the quantity of the commodity supplied. And it can be noted from the curve that it is a line graph that slopes upwards from left to right. Okay, it is a line graph that slopes upwards from left to right. It's a line curve that slopes upward from left. This is the left, from left to right. Okay, sloping upwards from left to right when you are facing the graph, because you see it can also, when you are facing this side, it's from right to left, but we are talking of when you are now facing the graph, it is from left to right. It's just a line graph, just a simple line graph, and that is the supply curve. Unlike the demand curve, okay, which is the opposite. Okay, the opposite, it slopes downward. The demand curve we saw sloped downward. All right, this one is sloping upward. So that is the difference. So with that, we come to the end of our today's lesson. In our today's lesson, we have learned 3 things. We have learned 3 things. Number 1, the law of supply. And we've said that the higher the price of a commodity, the higher the quantities that will be supplied in the market. And the lower the price of a commodity, the lower the quantity of the same product that will be supplied in the market. Okay, we've said that the tendency of the supply of a commodity to increase with increase in price, and the tendency of a commodity to reduce with the decrease in price is the law of supply. That is one thing we've learned today. We've also learned about the supply schedule. The supply schedule. We covered the supply schedule, and we say that a supply schedule is simply a table that shows the price of a commodity with the corresponding quantity supplied over a given period of time. Then we have also learned how to draw a supply curve. A supply curve. We've seen how to draw a supply curve, which is on the board here. So with that, we come to the end of our lesson today. We continue next time. For now, bye-bye.